I'm super excited to show you this really cool WPGraphQL integration for Pods Pro. It does all the wonderful GraphQL things you'd like with the power of pods. In this demo, I'm going to show you how I have a books pod, which contains a bunch of books I've already added, some images, some custom fields, as well as my authors, which are a relationship to my books. And I have some authors already defined with their featured images and their names already entered into the database. If you look here at the edit screen, you'll see the fields as I've defined them. And then you can see that in the GraphQL Explorer, they appear here. So you've got your singular book, you have your books list, and all the variations you might want. How do we get here? Well, first, we need to go edit our pod. To enable WPGraphQL integration for pods, all you have to do is go into your post type, edit it, and head over to this WPGraphQL tab. Once you're there, you just enable support for WPGraphQL, and these fields will show up. So by default, it's off. And then you can turn it on and type in whatever singular name or plural name you want, but by default, this is your singular and plural label. So in this case, I've got books and book. So book is singular and books is plural. And then you can choose this really fantastic option. So it's showing all the fields as read-only. And this is something I love because I like to just have access to everything I need in WPGraphQL. So I can check this box and all of my fields will instantly be showing up in the WPGraphQL queries. Then you also have this option to choose your relationship format. So when you choose your relationship format, this is how the values of those relationships will come back through the WPGraphQL queries. By default, I think we do have it set to connection, but you can also change it to ID only, title only, view URL only, or define it per field. This will override all your field settings. So depending on what you have set here, it could change whatever you might have set in your actual field. And so if you want to just use per field settings, you can do that. Same thing for file format. You have the option to choose the file format that comes back when you query those things. I'm going to keep them both connections because that's the really cool part of this. It's something that it just got me so excited. So if you look at the fields here, I've got relationship fields for genre, language, country, but the real one, the meat and potatoes here, is the book author's relationship. This one is related to a real object that is in the database. It's another post type, and I can go in here and click into the WPGraphQL section of that field, and you can see I can enable support for this. Now, of course, I already have it enabled for all fields, so this is something if you have not enabled it for all fields, this will enable this individual field. And then you can choose to customize the singular name or plural name, and then the connection format, ID, title, view, URL, whatever relationship format you want to return. Let's go ahead and check out what this looks like. If you look at this left-hand side, you can see as you look at your books section here, you look at the nodes, that's a list of books, you can choose individual fields to pull out. You've got all these different things, all these different options. I'm going to expand those back. All right, so the real cool part about this is each field has different availabilities for its formatting. So in this case, a database ID is always just going to be the one format. But when we look at a custom field I have from pods, like country, I can choose to override that format. So maybe I want it to be the raw value or the rendered value. What does this mean? Let's take a look. So I'm going to hit run, and now we can take a look here. So genre was raw, so it's coming through as psi-5, but it's all lowercase. This is the value of the field. If I were to change that value to become something that was rendered and rerun that, you'll see it's science fiction. So it takes that label and shows me. If I remove this entirely, it shows me that rendered value. So by default, the rendered value is what is used. You can then customize it to fit your needs or explicitly say that you want it to be the rendered format. So country comes in as US now because it's a raw. My date is the value I have for display, but I can always say, let's make that raw as well. Let's make all of these raw there. And we're going to just pull all the raw values. So we've got sci-fi, we've got English language, US, and then the publication date turned into a year, month, day format. And then I've also pulled in the featured image. So I've got the ID, that's the post ID, the attachment ID inside of WordPress. I've got the URL of that image. I've got the media type because I just thought maybe that might be nice to include. And then I also have my book author. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, book author is a relationship. And how does it know? How does it know about these fields on this relationship? Let's take a look inside of the Explorer. We scroll up right here to the book author. So this is the book author section. This book author is a connection between the book and the book author type. I've told WPGraphQL implicitly that this is a relationship connection. And I've told it in a format that GraphQL can understand. And this is the really awesome power of the GraphQL editor, where you can kind of see everything really happening right in front of you. This is really awesome because you can then query fields off of that relationship deep, as many fields as you need to, as well as relationships off of those. So if there's a relationship on book author, I would see it here too. And that's the fantastic part about it. So I'm pulling right now the book author title, the featured image, including the database ID. Again, I'm doing the same ones as I did for the main book. And then I've got the database ID for the book author. The cool part here also is the fact that it respects the fields in order as you put them. So I said I want a title first, but theoretically database is ahead of title in an alphabetical list. But when I look at the output, it's shown at first and then database ID last. So it respects that. I can respect that. If you look at the output of all this information, I can easily build out an interface with my theme using this output and display all the books, all of the book authors, of their associated images. I've got everything I need. And that's the power of GraphQL. I'm so excited for you to check out this add-on. I cannot wait to see what configurations you throw at it. It can handle just about anything, and I am pretty much in love with GraphQL now. I've loved REST API, but GraphQL is definitely where it's at when you want to go do some theming. So enjoy.